Hey, what's up, guys? I got a question, and that question was, what is a transient? What is transient control, and how do you control them? And what's the point? So, I'm going to start off by explaining, in my own words, what a transient is. And a transient is basically quiet to loud. It can be usually, well, it usually is from a relatively quiet amplitude, like no amplitude, no sound, to a loud one. A good example would be a kick. A kick has a very powerful transient at the beginning, right? Very powerful transient, thug life. So, what is transient control? So, dynamic range control basically can shape a sound. So, what does that mean? So, you have attack and release in a compressor. Attack and release. The transient is naturally at the beginning of the sound, so a fast attack, in theory, will eliminate the transient, or it will bring it down to a level that's more appropriate, depending on what you want. So we have a snare with a transient at the beginning. That's very quick and very loud. Snares are particularly notorious for this. So we'll just play this. Right. So we're gonna bring the compressor down to a threshold that would be deemed appropriate, where the compressor bites. When I say when a compressor bites, it's when there's gain reduction. It's when the audio goes over a certain threshold. So whenever I say when a compressor bites, that just means audio has gone over the threshold and there's gain reduction going on. So I'll turn off makeup gain. Right, so we have reduction in the audio. Let me just turn this up so I can kind of hear it. We have reduction going on. So the attack is at 2 milliseconds, so it's kind of preserving that beginning part. We can have it to a super fast attack, 0.1 milliseconds, 0.01 milliseconds, and we've basically eliminated the transient. And if we bring the threshold down, or we'll bring the ratio down. We'll bring the ratio down, and we've effectively eliminated that transient. This is what they would call overcompressed. So, or not overcompressed, like it's really like squished. When someone says, oh, you squish the shit out of it, you're squishing the transient part. So what we can do is preserving the transients in compression is very important. This is very important. Preserving the transients is done for one-shots. We'll use this argument for one-shots. It's increasing the attack until you hear the audible transient. So we'll just for fun, and we'll increase the attack or reduce the attack until you can hear it. So you can hear that. Well, you can definitely hear that attack. So what's happening now is What's happening now is we have this little bit coming through, and then reduction is going on, right? And that's all well and good. So that's preserving the transient. So why would you do this? If you want drums to be punchier, then you would do it this way. This snare is obviously a bit more punchier than this one, and it's a little too heavy, and it really depends on the track. Once you do that, you can increase the output, or not. You can a little bit, right? You can hear it's quite punchy. All right, so we'll go on to this. Obviously, this is basically the same deal. These all have transients, and the compressor will act accordingly. Right, we can completely kill the transients and we have lost our punchiness. Our drums sound kind of dead. When it's at an extreme value. So when is killing the transients and preserving the transients necessary? So basically, when you have your entire track going and it's all well and good, and you have a bunch of tracks and they have just transients poking through everywhere on your maximizer, or the stuff you have like at the end, or like your series of compressors, say like the glue or SSL comp, the transients are poking through and it's making that compressor do like erratic things. So that's always a big problem for a lot of engineer and music maker people, is the like your bus or whatever, it's being like too like wibbly wobbly. So what you can do is set up serial compression. So one compressor would completely tame the transients, and then another one would just level it out. So that would be like a bus compressor or something like that, just to level it out. What you wouldn't want to do that to would be the kick. You want the transients of the kick to poke through. In dance music, like 9 times out of 10, or like 99% of the time, you want the transient of that kick to poke through unaffected. And that's where you like the absolute velocity 0 of your track. That's where you want it to be. The kick is pretty important. Another thing you should be wary about is sounds. Single sounds can have more than one transient, and what that means is, say this kind of kick, there's 2 kind of areas here that would go above the threshold and cause the compressor to trigger. So your compressor will be triggered twice. So you always have to kind of keep that in mind for some sounds. Yeah, that's basically it. What they would do back then is they would run their buses through tube compressors or a tape machine. Tape machine especially, because a tape machine is not too sensitive to transients. So the tape machine would tame the transients and make things into like one cohesive, not a brick, but it would tame. It wouldn't be so reactive compared to it just being by itself. Tape is a magical thing that people are still trying to figure out. Tubes also, they're not as reactive as solid state electronic circuits. They take that transient and they just kind of ride it in a way that's more musical. So that's another thing to look into. It just depends on the plugins you have. So for a lot of audio, when you're mixing, you're going to want to tame those transients, not kill them, but tame them. And that's with compressors. So a really fast attack will tame a transient. An example is, say, a vocalist saying a lot of P's or T's. Those sounds have very powerful transients that will completely wreck your mix at the end stage. So what they do is they use series of different microphones. For one, different compressors, the EQ, the DS. A de-esser is a single band, or not a single band. I guess would be a 3-band multi-band compressor that only compresses the S frequency, and it would compress that. So there's just a series of dynamic range things that are controlling different sounds, different transients. And they'd use them in series, so one would have a super fast attack to tame everything, but only use slightly, and they would have one with a slower attack and a longer-ish release to level out everything. And they use Avalons and all this sorts of fun stuff that I can't afford. But yeah, so that is my question answered, and I hope you got a lot out of that.